Of all the Koikatsu tutorial requests I've received over the years, none have been as popular as clothing mods. People really want to know how to add new clothings into the game so they can have the perfect waifu attire. A lot of people even make that their first goal when starting to learn about Koikatsu character creation, and I get it. You want that iconic outfit your waifu always wears, and modding it in seems like the most straightforward way to get it. However, by going straight to clothing mods without exploring all the other options available to you, you could be making things way harder on yourself than they need to be. The biggest reason I haven't done a clothing mod tutorial up till now is because I myself have almost never needed to make clothing. No, really. Take a look at Daisy's dress here. Rather than sculpting from scratch or porting from another game, I made this design by retexturing one of the default dresses already in Koikatsu. How about this one? Well, that's just a bunch of pre-made armor pieces and, again, some clothes I textured myself. You'd be amazed at how much you can get away with by simply retexturing existing outfits. In particular, the full-body tights open up a lot of possibilities. You can even have skin effects like splattered paint, mud, or soap bubbles. Retexturing items is as simple as opening the material editor, exporting the UV map, editing it, and then slapping that back into Koikatsu as a main text or load overlay texture. And if you really need a unique shape or physics object, you can make an accessory. I already made a tutorial for how to get those in the game, but I don't believe I mentioned how to get the physics working. For instance, this tanuki tail wiggles on its own. So all I did differently was rig up my model with an armature in Blender, put a dynamic bone component on the prefab parent, and then drag the root of the imported mesh into the slot here. From there, I built the zip mod and did some testing in Kara Studio to get the physics just right before dialing those settings into the dynamic bone. Between custom accessories and retextured clothes, I've been able to make nearly everything I wanted to. Now, if after all that, you still feel that a clothing mod is the only way for you to go, then keep on watching. And make sure you watch till the end before attempting this. Just a warning.
This might get hairy.
To start, I'm assuming you've already watched my accessory tutorial and have some general knowledge about Blender. Particularly armature rigging, otherwise known as weight painting, setting vertex weights, or assigning vertex groups. All that describes basically the same thing. You're creating a heat map for controlling a mesh via an armature. Today, I'll be modding in the main dress from my own indie game, My Chandroid Sweetheart. I'll be putting it on my curly brace card since she looks so much like a Chandroid. First things first, we need an example model to copy the vertex weights from. Open Koikatsu and look for the closest thing you can find to the outfit you're modding in. I picked out the one-piece dress, plain. Next, you'll need to go into the game's files, find that item, and extract its rigged model. To do that, you'll need to use SB3 Utility by Enimuro. You can visit his GitHub page to find it. If you're using the Better Repack though, you'll find it in the Modding Tools folder. I recommend setting this program as the Windows default for opening .unity3d files, since you'll be doing a lot of that. To do that, go into your AB data folder and click a random .unity3d file and set SB3 Utility as the default. It might take a few tries depending on what mood Windows is in. Once it's the default, go to the AB data Kara folder. Start digging through the files looking for your item's name as it appears in the material editor. For me, I'm looking through the top files since the one-piece dress is a top. I don't see it in the 00 file, so I'll keep going. Eventually, I find it in the 12 file. I middle-click to close all the other files I have open. To extract the model, double-click its name and unfold the hierarchies that show up until you find the skinned mesh renderers. There's a button to export those in FBX format. When you click it, SB3 Utility spits out a folder named appropriately, with files named Meshes 0, Meshes 1, and so on. These are what we'll import into Blender. Once they're imported, I scale them up temporarily to make editing easier. To do that, I parent them to an empty and scale it by 100 times. Next, import your desired model and pose it to match as closely to the example model as possible. You may also want to import Koikatsu's female body model from the OO base file to make sure you're not clipping through the body. I once again scaled this up by 100 to match the others. I try to fit the model as closely as possible, but ultimately I have to go in and sculpt it since it won't fit properly. If your model comes with its own rigging, go ahead and apply the armature modifier, unparent it from its armature, and delete all its vertex groups, since those will all be added during the vertex weight transfer process. It is now ready for the transfer. In object mode, select the example clothings and then your model. Go to weight paint mode and select the transfer weights option from the dropdown. Make sure the source is set to by name and you're good to go. You can always go in with the brush to tweak the weights if you know what you're doing, but if you got the item close enough, it should be fine. Now that the weights are in place, just parent the model to one of the example armatures using armature deform. Be sure to set the model's origin point to the same point as the example armature's origin. For me, this happened to be 000 since everything's just at the origin of the world. We're now ready to export. Select only your model and its parent armature, and export as FBX using the settings shown on screen. And congratulations, you made it past the Asylum Demon. Now the real challenge begins. It's time to take that model and prepare it as a Koikatsu mod. Go to your KK Modding Tools folder, which you should have if you followed my accessory tutorial. Copy the clothing example folder and paste it into your mods folder. Rename it to whatever your mod is called. Then, open KK Modding Tools in Unity 5.6.2. Drag your exported model into the mesh folder to stay organized. Also, go ahead and create a material for it and drag in your model's texture. Make sure that material is using the shader called Shader Forge Main Opaque. Drag the example prefab and your model into the scene and rearrange your model's hierarchy to match the example. Next, add the Cha Clothes component and drag the actual model object into the normal list. Now, I leave the Use Color boxes unchecked since I don't want my model to be colorable in-game. Alright, now drag the model into the prefab folder to create a prefab. You'll need to tag this prefab and the texture with the same asset bundle path. I used kara/koikdaisy/chandroiddress.unity3d. With that done, we'll start working on the list file. Rename and open the example CSV in your spreadsheet editor of choice. I'm using LibreOffice Calc. Pay attention to that first number that shows up. It denotes the specific Koikatsu category where your item will show up. If you want to find out what you should put there, you'll need to go into the game's files. So go to abdata list Kara custom and open 00.unity3d. My model is a top, so I double-clicked co_top. The number on the tab title is the category number you'll want to use. Enter that into the first cell of the spreadsheet. Next, fill in all your items' information. If it's just a basic top, set the kind to 4 so you don't get all the weird jackets and emblem options. Name your item and set the main AB to that asset bundle path you came up with earlier. Set main data to the name of your prefab. set main text to the name of your texture, which you included in the asset bundle. If you're not using color masks, just zero out the color mask entries as they are unneeded. Thumb AB is the asset bundle path for your thumbnail. At this point, I quickly whip up a thumbnail to use, and I tag it with kara/koikdaisy/thumb/chandroid-dress.unity3d, and put that into the cell. Thumb text is the thumbnail's name. I just call it thumb, so I enter that. Now your list file is done. Save it, and we'll move on to the manifest.xml file. This is where we officially name the mod and credit ourselves as the author. Pretty self-explanatory. Congratulations! You did it! The mod is ready. Just remove the tags from the example assets and build it. And then build the zip mod, cut and paste it into the mods folder, and start the game. Alright, now let's see if we can find it. Here. The dress is nowhere to be seen. The prefab object isn't even showing up in the material editor. On top of that, there's all these extra customization options that shouldn't be there. Well, the latter is easy enough to fix, just change the kind. So if 1 is jacket, then 0 would be no jacket, right? Inexplicably, the dress object shows up in Material Editor, but it's still invisible. Setting the shader to matte cap and then resetting it does the trick, but it's only showing the bottom half for some reason. I don't know. We're still getting weird customization options, by the way. So let me double check the list file in SB3 utility. Okay, it looks like the kind should be set to 4. That fixes the customization, but the dress is still weird. Why is it invisible by default? Is the texture working? Yeah. Okay, maybe it's an issue with the hierarchy. Maybe the game is trying to push everything to the bottom because it's under that bot object? I don't know, man. Nope. Let's double check the component. It's fine. The material? Nothing wrong there. Real quick, let's hide the character's body to see what...
Oh no!
Oh no! No! I'm too perfect. This is what happens when you try to play God!
More than anything, this looks like bad weight painting. Rotating stuff in Unity and Blender confirms it. I'm getting a lot of weird warping. Yup, the weights are all wrong. So I go back and redo the weight transfer several times with different settings. To add to the fun, every time I export from Blender, it breaks my prefab in Unity, meaning I have to do the whole prefab prep process every time I export from Blender, on top of waiting for the asset bundles to build and for the game to launch. I try auto transform, only neighbor geometry, projected face interpolated, and nearest vertex with ray radius, and with each attempt it just gets worse and worse and worse. At some point I catch a glimpse at the size of the example bra compared to my dress. Oh. It's 100 times too small. meaning all that back and forth was wasted time. You hear that, boy? We didn't need to go back to Blender. So I set the mesh scale to 100 and export again. Finally, we're gonna get this dress working and be done with the tutorial. Thank God. The stomach is poking through. The vertices jump all over the place when I drag the sliders. The back has jiggle physics. And this is why I almost never make clothing mods. Granted, if you're more skilled with weight painting than I am, you could get something usable from it. Or if you stick to modifying existing clothing items or making smaller scale things, you can go further with it. But if you're the kind of person who's looking for help with stuff like this, trust me, you're better off retexturing existing items. Even my best efforts at smoothing out weight painting left little bumps everywhere on the skirt. And so for this, instead, I recreate the same dress by retexturing the vanilla one-piece dress. I open the material editor, export the UV maps, paste them on the default texture, and start painting. I save and import the texture as an overlay, making sure to check the Hide Base Texture checkbox. Then I go back and forth, making small modifications until it comes out exactly how I want it. None of this is to discourage you from really going for something if it interests you. If you know that you want a clothing mod, go for it. I wouldn't want you to think I don't want that. It's just that I know a lot of people are looking for a workable solution to bring their waifus to life in Koikatsu. One of the major draws of the software is its plug-and-play nature, where you can just be creative without too much technical overhead. I believe that for most people, my recommendation will allow them to spend less time fiddling with numbers and file formats, and more time making the art they want to make. Maybe there's better ways of doing things that even I don't know about. If so, that just goes to show the ingenuity of the Koikatsu community. By the way, in case you were wondering, the dress design in this tutorial comes directly from the game I've been working on, My Chandroid Sweetheart. It's a puzzle exploration game where you help your robot girlfriend find her lost memories. It's a cutesy, charming game with some challenging puzzles. If you're interested, you can follow my other Twitter account where I post occasional updates, @WanderStudyG. It feels surreal coming back and making a tutorial again after such a long time has passed. I even scripted this one to avoid rambling too much. I suppose I let the channel die to some extent since my game development has hogged my attention. Whenever I thought about putting creativity into anything that wasn't Chandroid, I felt guilty. I'm now realizing that even though that is my mountain to climb, it's not like I'm stuck with it till it's done. I am allowed to lean into other creative outlets occasionally. So, in the spirit of that, I tackled the clothing tutorial everyone was asking for. Kinda. I at least got you 90% of the way there. Give me at least that much credit. As for the future of Koikdaisy, I see no reason why I can't make more tutorials showing my various techniques for making art in Koikatsu. I'd also like to make more of those sexy music videos with my favorite songs. Those were such a blast, and now I can even add a new level of depth to them with Daisy's AI voice.
Did I hear my name being called?
And finally, I'd still like to put little pictures and animations on my Twitter account. I love coming up with little two-panel stories and sight gags. In the end, there's lots of possibility open for future Koikdaisy projects. For now, though, have a great day.